This morning on BRN, managing your credit card debt. And joining me now to help break it all down, we're going to welcome back to the program Ted Rossman of Bankrate. Ted, always great to see you. Thanks for doing double duty this week.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Ted, really great conversation earlier this week on managing credit card rewards, and I guess people just not prioritizing what they should be. Let's talk about the booming credit card debt. Right now, it's beyond anything it has been. More and more Americans are carrying higher credit card balances, and those interest rates are high.
This is a really important issue because the average American has about $6,600 in credit card debt, according to TransUnion. Collectively, it's 1.2 trillion across the US, according to the New York Fed. The average credit card rate is around 20%. That's close to a record high. Chances are this is your highest cost debt by a wide margin, and about half of cardholders carry debt from month to month. So these are all reasons why we want to prioritize credit card debt payoff. My favorite tip is to sign up for a 0% balance transfer credit card. Some of these last as long as 24 months, like the US Bank Shield Visa, for example. The Citi Simplicity and the Wells Fargo Reflect are close. They're 21 months interest-free. The point is, if you can avoid interest for 2 years or close to it, that is just a massive tailwind for your debt payoff efforts. I mean, you're paying a few $100s a month and completely knocking out that average balance within 2 years versus minimum payments that can keep you in debt for close to 2 decades and cost you almost $10,000 in interest.
And Ted, what do you do? That's assuming that you can get a credit card of equal to credit limit. What if you don't get a new credit card, a 0% card, and it only gives you half the credit limit that you had? Because I could see it's enticing for the credit card company because they just want to get the transfer fee, and eventually they got you for 24 months. After that, they can jack up your credit rate. But what do you do if you can't transfer all of your balance to one card?
It's a good point. The 0% balance transfer approach works best if you have good credit. So credit score at least in the upper 600s. I'd feel even better if it was over 700. And you're right about the credit limit. A lot of times if you have more than $5,000 or $6,000 in credit card debt, you might not get a high enough limit to transfer all that debt. A solid plan B, especially if you have a lower credit score or a lot of debt, like more than $5,000 or $6,000 in credit card debt, look into nonprofit credit counseling. Agencies like Money Management International and GreenPath, they can often negotiate something like a 6 or 7% rate over 4 or 5 years. It's not zero, but that's still a really attractive rate, considering that the average credit card rate is around 20%. They'll walk you through the process. They'll really help you out in those 4 or 5 years getting a good handle on your debt. So that would be a solid plan B, especially for those with lesser credit or considerable credit card debt.
And for those not-for-profits, just speaking generically, do you have to pay them? I'm assuming they're not-for-profit, but do you have to pay them for their service, or you just go to them, you go through I guess they have access to your credit scores and all the information, and then they negotiate on your behalf with the card company?
There are usually minimal fees, maybe something like a $50 setup fee and then $25 a month after that. Something like that's pretty typical. So very reasonable considering the break you're getting on interest. The National Foundation for Credit Counseling is a great resource. A lot of their members, like Money Management International and GreenPath and others, can really help people with debt payoff. What I think is so interesting is that the terms I outlined, something like a 6 or 7% rate over 4 or 5 years, that actually kind of approximates what someone with really good credit might get on a personal loan. That's another form of debt payoff. You take out a personal loan, you pay off the cards right away, and then you repay the personal loan over time at more favorable rates. That works too, but to get those terms, you often need really good credit. So the fact that nonprofit credit counselors offer that to just about everybody, sometimes I like to say this is a great option, sort of hiding in plain sight, that it almost sounds too good to be true. It's proven to work, though. The financial industry has really bought into this, and because it works, the big fear for banks is that credit card holders skip out on their bills. It's
Yep.
unsecured debt. It's not backed by a home or car. The fact that this helps people pay back their debt, that's why the card issuers are willing to play ball. And that's where having a trusted nonprofit to negotiate on your behalf can help.
Ted, the corollary to that is there are for-profit debt consolidation. I see them on the news. I don't see them on the news, but I see them in between news segments. They're advertising, they're sending out circulars. What about those as options? I would assume that you pay a higher fee, maybe pay a little. It's not going to be 7%. It might be 12%.
I'm glad you brought that up. I actually don't like that part of the debt payoff world. So that often goes by terms like debt settlement. That can be problematic because what those for-profit companies do is they tell you to stop paying for a while. And then they try to use that as leverage. It's back to this idea that it's unsecured debt, you can't get blood
Mm-hmm.
from a stone, some people don't pay their credit cards back. So what these for-profits do is they kind of hold the card company over a barrel, so to speak, that somebody runs up a bunch of debt and late payments, and then they make a debt settlement offer. And it's like, hey, are you willing to settle for 20% of the amount? Sometimes the company says yes. The problem, though, is that it trashes your credit either way because all the late payments have stacked up. Settling for less than you owe is a bad thing in the credit scoring world. So there's credit score damage either way. The other thing, though, is they don't have to take the offer. So maybe you kind of play this game of chicken, and at the end of the day, they say, nope, we don't take the deal. We're going to sue you, or they're going to pursue payment some other way. That's why I don't like the for-profit debt settlement, whereas nonprofit credit counseling sounds very similar, but is actually a lot better.
And my just following up on that, I mean, when you go through the nonprofit route, being that I would imagine that a lot of these credit card companies are supporting these through foundations, they're making, they're supporting these organizations and so because it's in their interest. But when you do that, you're not necessarily going to, and you lower your rate to 7%, you're not going to negatively impact your credit card score as if we were just talking about the for-profit where you're saying, I'm not going to pay you, screw you, credit card company, and then you get dinged on your credit score, and then good luck getting a car loan, or you're going to a loan shark.
Right. The nonprofit approach can be beneficial for your credit score in the long run. A lot of times people find these agencies actually on their credit card statement. Somewhere in the fine print, there's often if you're having trouble with your debt, call 1-800 such and such. There are relationships there, like between the card companies and National Foundation of Credit Counseling members. And it actually is this kind of symbiotic relationship where they are often willing to work together. Now, sometimes you can even ask your current issuer for a break. That can sometimes be a smart strategy as well, especially if you're going through some kind of hardship. Maybe it was a natural disaster or a medical situation or a divorce, or that's actually another thing a lot of people don't realize is you can call up your company and say, hey, look, I'm having trouble. Can you work with me? Can we
Yeah.
rearrange my due date? Can I skip a payment or two, hopefully without interest or credit score damage? Sometimes they're willing to cut you a break. You still have to pay them back in the long run, but sometimes there's a way to get some accommodations and also protect your credit score. It surprises some people, and you think, oh, it's a sign of weakness. I shouldn't let my card company know if I'm having trouble. No, it can actually be beneficial. There's no harm, no foul. It doesn't hurt to ask.
Uh, Ted, as we discussed last time you were on the program, we talked about this is Financial Literacy Month. And I just want to point out on the Broadcast Retirement Network, and I know on Bankrate, financial literacy is every month, every day. But is this another opportunity for education? We talked about rewards and prioritizing what is important. What about managing credit card debt? It seems to me, Ted, this has got to be in that first or second lesson in high school or college.
It's like that saying from Albert Einstein about compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. Those who understand it earn it, those who don't pay it. I mean, the math is just staggering on some of these credit card bills that like if you have that average credit card balance, about 6,600 bucks, and you make minimum payments, you're in 18 years of debt and you owe $9,600 in interest. And you contrast that with the positive, which is every dollar you invest in your 20s could be $40 by the time you retire if you're getting, let's say, 10% a year. It's really important to get a handle on your credit card debt. I feel like not enough people are paying attention to what's their interest rate, how much are they paying every month. Ideally, use credit like debit. You pay it off right away, you don't owe interest. Credit cards do have advantages like rewards programs and buyer protections and convenience, But it's like that industry saying that credit cards are like power tools. They're either really useful or dangerous. It's all about how you use them.
Lastly, Ted, I think last time we had you on, we talked about capping credit card rates. There was a bill, bipartisan bill, for lack of, I think it was Bernie Sanders and Josh Hawley, right?
Very interesting,
And
different ends of the political
yeah,
spectrum.
but same purpose. Is this thing dead? I mean, I know they're going to be moving towards tax cuts. Is that dead, or could that possibly resurrect itself? And I think there was a complementary bill in the House of Representatives. So is that dead, shot down, not going to be considered? What are you hearing?
It's sort of still twisting in the legislative wind. It's
Yeah,
in committee. There's so much gridlock in Congress. It's hard to predict what might come out and actually come to a vote. I don't think that's going to pass in its current form. A 10% cap, I mean, it sounds good for consumers, but it would be really crippling to the financial industry and would actually have unintended consequences like cutbacks and access to credit and rewards. And I tend to think that a hard cap is not the best way to go, that ideally people get a handle on their debt themselves, either by paying it off right away or getting one of those 0% transfer cards or working with a reputable nonprofit credit counselor. But yeah, so interesting that different ends of the political spectrum are talking about this. In both the House and the Senate, we have very conservative and very liberal members joining together. The fact that the conversation is happening is notable and does go to show how much of a Main Street kind of issue this is. Tens of millions of Americans are wrestling with credit card debt. So I know it's easier said than done, but there are some things you can do to get a handle on those expenses.
yeah, certainly. Well, this is something I think we're all going to be, consumers are going to feel a lot of pain, especially with kind of what's going on in Washington, D.C. these days. So getting that credit card debt, certainly important, and got to get it under control. Ted, always great to see you. Thanks for double duty this week. We appreciate it, and we look forward to having you back on the program again very soon.
Me too. Thank you.
And don't forget to subscribe to our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse, for all the news in one place. Details, of course, at our website, and your subscription helps support all this great BRN content. And we're back again tomorrow for another edition of BRN. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.